Peace. Welcome back to the Willie. So let's kick the Bobo. So, hope that everybody had a great weekend. I know I did. Took a little vacation time, got the mind right, took some rest and relaxation at last. Didn't want to do that in my Elmer Fudd voice, but you get the point. A lot of thinking was done, what I'm saying, over this time, even during the draft. Yeah, great draft, of course, as we saw. But that's not what today's show is about. Not at all. No sports. As I put my thinking cap on, I really feel this time to talk about miseducation. Okay, so we're going to cover two fronts about miseducation. We're going to cover San Antonio sadness, and we're also going to cover the miseducation of a racist. Okay. When we focus on those two dynamics, as to which I'm going to show you some, photos that were sent to me by a listener, and I really appreciate that. Wanted to remain anonymous and wanted me to do this show. Big up to you. I really sincerely appreciate you. The images you're going to see, they're going to at first seem unrelated. But trust me, they have a much more equivalent, deeper connection than you could ever imagine. The first document that we're looking at in this screenshot here, it's a headline, pretty clear, right? Study. San Antonio ranks as Texas' least educated, large metro for the fifth consecutive year. I need y'all to really think about that. If I'm correct, the state of Texas ranks 44th out of 50th in education as a state. Okay? It's deplorable. Understanding that this is only a news snapshot. And of course, if it's not of your interest, it's quite easy to scroll past it. But if you got kids, you got to treat this like humbling data. Now you think about for 5 years running, a major American city with immense culture and history is struggling to provide adequate educational attainment compared to its peers. Again, 5 years. Now, you got to understand that this is not a knock on the people of San Antonio, not by far. This is a knock on the system. It's a quantifiable metric of civic and systemic absolute, pure and adulterated failure. Education, as we know, in this country and in some of others, it's the engine of opportunity, along with being a scam artist and so on. Now, if this engine is stalled for 5 years, something is fundamentally broken in that machine. Redlining out here is the reason why this statistic exists. Now let's look at the second image. On the left, we have a black and white photo from 1926 showing the Ku Klux Klan marching on Washington, D.C. Ku Klux Klan originated in Pulaski, Tennessee under the Democratic Party, by the way. On the right, we have a color photo from 2026, just last week, showing a modern tactical gear-clad mass white supremacist group marching. Now, they probably come from some support group because they have small penises and they have a whole lot of insecurities going on, so they need each other. Now, these images are designed to, shock you, and it really should, because it shows a continuity of organized hate. The 1926 image is a display of open institutional power, because at that time, the Klan was a massive mainstream and political organization in the 20s. They just slid into different organizations now. Police, judges, doctors, so on. You get it. And of course, that was particularly in the Midwest and the South, right? And of course, they marched openly in the Capitol. The 2026 image shows the evolution of that racial parade. Now, they're masked, just not in sheets, but in tactical gear, clowns. See, this is the aesthetic of a modern domestic extremism, borrowing from military and law enforcement to protect the threat of a violence while maintaining a degree of anonymity. How does it work? That's kind of passive aggressive, don't you think? Because if you're going to do that shit, open your face up. Let us see who you really are. Cowards. So we have two facts on the table. We have a persistent failure of a public education system in a major metro area. The persistence, evolving organizations of white supremacist ideology. As I asked before, do you think these two things are connected? I say the yes. And I'm here to argue that they absolutely are. A robust, critical public education system is our primary defense against the kind of ideologies that were shown in that comparison picture 1926, 2026. Now, conversely, when a system fails, it's known to leave a vacuum that can be filled by simplified, hateful narratives, okay, raised by trailer park inbreeds. To understand the present, you really have to be honest about the past. Now, we got to go back to that 1926 photo, right? Here you go. The Klan of the 20s didn't just hate black people. They were explicitly anti-immigrant, anti-Catholic, and anti-Semitic. So for all of you Irish motherfuckers, all you Italian motherfuckers, you Asian motherfuckers, all of you motherfuckers that think that for some odd reason that you latched onto whiteness, hey man, guess what? Fuck you too is their motto at the end of the day. Because it was not even less than 100 years ago that they were also persecuted. Let's not talk about, how Asians were encamped in World War, I and II, I think? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, please, at the Willie Bobo Show. And you can also hit me at thewillieboboshow@gmail.com. So their power came from a promise to protect a specific version of America, a white, Protestant, nativist version, right? From perceived threats. Motherfucker, please. Because this wasn't just fringe, it was mainstream. You understand what I'm saying? This wasn't some country news. This is what happened mainstream. So why did the ideology spread? Okay, you got a lot of historians that point to specific several factors, such as post-World War I economic anxiety, right? Rapid social changes like the Great Migration of Black Americans to the North and increased immigration. And crucially, a lack of robust, pluralistic education here. Because the education system of the era, it just reinforced a racial hierarchy in midst of white superiority. Because remember, Malcolm was the most intelligent kid in his class. And this motherfucker, white bitch, had the nerve to tell him that he could be a fucking carpenter. Are you serious? He wanted to be a lawyer. Okay? This made millions of people susceptible to the Klan's simple, hateful message. Your problem, not your own. They're being caused by the other. Look, when education fails, history rhymes. The conditions of 1926, economic displacement, social anxiety, cultural fear, these are not unique to only 1926. They are unique to 2026 also. So, we have to fast forward now to a century later, back to San Antonio. Logically, reasonably, within an adult mind, if you have children, you have to ask yourself, why would a major area like San Antonio struggle for 5 consecutive years to raise its education rankings, but yet people move here by the bundle? Are you not checking out this before you move here? Because your kids' grades that were on the East Coast or the West Coast or up north, they come down here, those grades are dominant. But if they transfer somewhere else, the grades they accumulated here don't mean squat. It's about resources and priorities, man. Because we're talking about systemic underfunding. Again, the redlining and greenlining in San Antonio is disgusting. Unequal property taxes based on school funding models. A lack of access to early childhood education. And an ongoing teacher shortage crisis, which is beyond me, man. Beyond me. I get it. Some of these kids, man, you need to beat their parents' ass. And I get it, because you are way underpaid. Okay? Coming out of your pocket. Now, this creates what sociologists call an opportunity gap. And when we create an opportunity gap, we're not just failing to educate a workforce. You understand what I'm saying, people? We're failing to create informed citizens. And this is how you come up with black and white kids not understanding each other, Hispanic and white kids not understanding each other, and so on, man. A strong education that's equal and balanced should provide critical thinking skills. That is the ability to question resources, recognize bias, and reject conspiracy theories. Historical literacy. How about let's create an honest understanding of how systemic oppression works, making you immune to reverse racism or white replacement myths. How about we do that, right? How about empathy and pluralism? Because exposure to diverse perspectives, which is the antidote to xenophobia and tribalism, is key. Now, conversely, when you have a population with significant gaps in literacy, numeracy, and civic understanding, exactly what a failing school system produces. That population is vulnerable. They're vulnerable to the same simplistic scapegoating narratives that drove the Klan in 1926, created in Pulaski, Tennessee under the Democratic Party. And I'm going to keep saying that shit for you Democrat lovers. You got to realize none of these motherfuckers love us. So the kind of extremism, and we're going to put this all together, shown in the modern half, right, of this contradictory photo, does not recruit from top tier universities. Let's get this right, because they're already there. They're born into it. Okay? It recruits in the shadows amongst those people who feel abandoned, forgotten, and angry. Okay? And that feeling of abandonment is a direct result of systemic failures. One of which is the kind of chronic educational neglect that we see all the time in our community. Neglect a community, and you create a fertile ground for hate. It's quite simple. Shit works. They've been doing it forever. Okay? You had a president that once said that if you make the poorest white man think that he's better than the most uppity black man, hell, you won. Now, that wasn't the exact quote, but we get what I'm talking about. So what did we learn today, people? I hope that you learned that the images that you saw, they're not just a relic of the past. It's a warning for the present. It shows that organized violence and hate groups is more than just adaptive. It's not an anomaly. It's been here. And we learned that the problem isn't just a local problem. It's a national security issue. That is a national security issue. They wanted to say the Panthers were a national security issue because they fed kids. Oh my God. Because they caused people of different colors to come together. That's a national security threat. Think about what the fuck they're saying, man. The fifth consecutive year of San Antonio being Texas' least educated large metro is a flashing red light that should blind you. The opposite of hate is justice. And justice requires education. Education allows you to be able to organize successfully. If we want to combat the rise of extremism, we cannot just focus on the extremists themselves. We must focus on the conditions that create them. Because again, if you ask the average white man why you're racist, he can't tell you why. He can give you some bullshit reasons, but he can't really tell you why. We must invest in our public education system, not as just a charitable expense, but as our single most important defense against the ideologies that have plagued us for over a century. When we fail to educate, we are in effect educating for hate. Thank you for listening. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment. If you have a show idea, please hit me up on the WillieBoboShow@gmail.com. Look, man, I just want us to do better. You know better, you do better. Keep your thinking caps on. Ox the light, the Willie Bobo Show. Peace.